Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the CIL GT3 Challenge. Tonight we head to Imola, one of my favorite tracks on the calendar. Race 5 out of 7, so season winding on down. Joining me up in the booth once again, that dynamic trio you know and love, Josh Crane and John Price. And John, thanks again for joining. Good to hear your voice once again.
Yeah, back up in the booth, third week in a row. We're on a roll here right now, guys, and enjoying it for sure, and very much looking forward to this race here at Imola, down in the heart of Italy, pretty close to San Marino, formerly known as the San Marino Grand Prix in earlier seasons of F1, and now we're here in the CIL with some GT3 cars, with both alumni and students driving them tonight. So 105-degree track temperature, 66-degree air temperature. So engines are going to work well, but those tires may suffer a little bit later on into these two 25-minute sprint races that we have tonight, Josh, and plenty of tricky spots around this track. It's one of my personal favorites and one of my old nemesis of a track, if I do say so, and plenty of tricky spots. Tamburello's tricky. Variante Alta is especially tricky, as well as the entrance to Acqua Minerale. But yeah, Josh, plenty of tricky places around this track to catch the guys out here tonight.
That is accurate. I would say that part of that makeup from this track is there's a lot of compound corners. Really, the two ends of the track comprised of a hairpin in one end, as what you said in Tosa, and then at the other end, we'll call it two fairly simple left-hand corners if you can stay off the curb there. But aside from that, down and changing elevations up into chicanes. It's really very technical, and it's in these GT3 cars. It's also going to depend on how these drivers can position their cars, use most of the curbs to their advantage, and really clean up and shorten that track as much as they can without getting on those black and yellow curbs, those turtles that we're going to see all night. We don't want to be on those, but as you can see there, using all the runoff area and using all the track limits is going to be key. So students up now, getting their qualifying laps in. We pick up, coming down to it, guys, past halfway, round 5 tonight of 7 in this season. So these storylines that are starting to come together and set up the finale. You're on board right now with Sean Campbell, actually, as you go across. Looks like we'll come back to that, but John, if you could give us a run across this onboard lap.
Yeah, for sure. So Sean Campbell getting a great amount of straight line speed here, running down the main straight, down to Tamburello corner, going to get the car over to the right, and then got to kink a little bit to the left before you're hard on the brakes, down to the second or third gear, and then careful not to hit those black and yellow curbs that Josh just mentioned a moment ago. No need to use all the runoff on the outside there, and now down to turns 5 and 6. Tough entry here. You can use a little bit of black and yellow there, as Sean expertly demonstrates. He's using quite a bit of curb. Plenty of confidence in this Porsche. Then hard on the brakes at that 50-meter board there on the right, probably 50 feet or so, and then swing it all the way out there. Use every last inch of track that you've got available to you. That is going to be key, getting around this track as fast as possible. And then up over the crest here, look for that 50 board again. Now swing it down into third gear, get on the power nice and early, get that rear end planted, and keep it tight over to the left as we approach one of the trickier entrances for Acqua Minerale. Get over the curb on the right-hand side there, swing back out to meet the curb up on the left, and then smooth on the throttle to get up and out, clambering all over the curbs as you head down this small straight to Variante Alta. Break at that 50 board again. Now use all the curb that you might get away with there. Sean Campbell just about getting away with that one. A little bit of upset car balance as he landed there, but managed to keep it in bounds. And then just picking the shortest line possible down to Ravazza, looking for just between that 100 board and that 50 board there on the right. Get it swung in early. It's deceptive. Use all that track to open up the entrance for this last corner, second to last corner technically on the track. And then just about keeps it in bounds as he heads down through turn 19, finally, hardly a corner at all. Just get as close with that door mirror to the wall on the inside there as possible. And that is Sean Campbell's lap around the track. It's actually 3/10 slower than his previous lap, Josh, but I think he knows what he's doing out there.
Yeah, he most certainly does, and we can follow him along as he gets on these curbs. That's something that I have both noticed, maybe in running officials here, John, as well as with some of the setups that these drivers have provided in Discord. In my laps, able to get in, is that if I can get the car to compress the suspension on the curbs, the normal curbing, white and red that you may see, then I can start lifting the side of that car, and I can get up over a little bit. Still might bump a little bit, but I can get up over the big turtles there, and again shorten up that track. So that was something that I had learned. Maybe from watching some of these guys and then trying to go through in officials. But that's something I think that we're going to see here. And then something else we might see, John, that comes along with that is going to be drivers taking a little bit too much, getting upset, and especially in traffic. That can be pretty difficult, especially if you're trying to react to a driver in front who's gone a little bit wrong.
Yeah, pretty difficult indeed. And not only do they have that to contend with, there's also a fresh iRacing update. Let us not forget today, which came with some significant changes to the way these GT3 cars performed. And iRacing themselves said that if you had an old setup that you thought was really good for this car, it's probably not good anymore. So with these guys having to figure that out today, I might expect this field to get shaken up a little bit, though. I still don't see any reason to not believe why Sean Campbell won't come away with at least one win here tonight, Josh. I think, but either way, it's going to be a bit of a change for some of these guys to get used to a little bit of tire differences across them. It sounds like the tires are going to have a little bit more wear as they heat up. It sounds like the front section widths on some of the cars have changed as well, so that's going to change how the steering plays in with the feedback. And it also felt to me like you got a little bit more information through the tire. I wouldn't call it necessarily more forgiving than it was before. These cars were always notorious for once you get them a little bit upset, they're going to be pretty loose in general and very hard to recover. I think that still exists, but it just sort of lets you know a little bit earlier when you're getting close to that limit, so you can have some time to adapt to it and maybe change your line, open up your steering, get back on the brakes or back on the gas a little bit to help correct that. But either way, wrapping up qualifying here, 3 minutes left, and students still out there trying to find their absolute best times. Josh, I think it's kind of interesting right now. We've got Sean Campbell on the pole position. The next 3 spots are all filled with alumni cars, and we don't have another student until we get to Thomas Crump in 5th place.
Yeah, those drivers, and I think a collection of Audi R8s. Those drivers know their cars, know them pretty well, and generally run quite close together. I think you had mentioned Texas at Arlington's Nicholas Daly had really stepped up just the finesse, the final 10%, and is now running up with those guys. And as we have seen, he'll be challenging Alexander Clank from Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and very quick. Both those drivers actually, and Avery Walker there from the University of Virginia, right in the middle. So following now, one of the Clemson drivers, Thomas Crump there in the Lamborghini. He's going to try and wrap up this lap. And John, you mentioned it's pretty easy to get in there, and a little bit tougher to use up all the track right there. You don't want to pick up that off track, as you saw that Lamborghini just wide of the white line on track. And this is going to be a track here with revised track limits for these drivers. So naturally, a lot of these drivers would have just a lot of seat time around this joint, but it's going to be a little bit different this evening.
Yeah, I think those revised track limits change pretty much every corner to be the edge of the the white and red curbing. So if you get all of your car past that, automatic off track, and that will invalidate your qualifying lap at the minimum. And if you rack up enough of those points across the race, then you incur a penalty yourself, as Cohen Evans finds it pretty tough getting across some of those turtle curbs there. It looked like Sean's car was set up pretty well to take these bumps, and we've talked about it on streams in the past, how the Porsche with its 4-way adjustable damping can arguably take a little bit better advantage of some of the bumps than other cars, though it's still not the easiest car to tune for that. I think that might be part of why Sean picked the Porsche for tonight, though. Josh, of course, that's going to mean that he starts from the back of the field in this first race. While he may have had a qualifying time that's nearly a full second, 7/10 of a second faster than Alexander Clank's time in qualifying, it doesn't matter. He's going to start from the back of the grid as per the rule book that these guys all agreed to follow, and and whenever you change a car, whether it's between races or between weeks or otherwise, that means you start from the back in the first race. Now, if he works his way up to 12th, of course, we invert the top 12 in between the 2 races. So if you finish 12th in the first race, you're going to be starting on pole position in the second. If you finished in second in the first race, you're going to start 11th, and so on and so forth, all the way through the top 12. So I don't think we have too much risk of not having too many battles here tonight, but Josh, I just hope everybody can get through turn 1 cleanly.
Certainly, and I think that these drivers here with turn one, a little bit of a calmer field this evening. Spring break in full effect as we enter that season, and yeah, I think that everybody will be able to find space for their own activities, John, as we move through turn one and beyond. But I'll go back to I think what I'm looking at is the combination, right? You said Variante Tamburello, really a left, right, left. That's a full sequence, pretty hard to get through there. Side by side, it'll take some patience from the drivers, and then you go right up to Variante Villeneuve. I think where you and the University of Wisconsin had a short little meeting on the right side there, and again, pretty hard to do side by side. So it's gonna be a little bit of finesse and maybe some mind games for the drivers in these positions who are getting ready to go. But yeah, John, I'm looking forward to it. And you mentioned at the end of the day, this track has produced some of the best driving, the best racing, and really a really fun event to watch. And so I think we've got a good seat for it.
Yeah, good seat indeed. And Jarrett, we've got the starting grid up there on the screen. Why don't we get a rundown of what order we're going to see starting out for race one tonight?
Yeah, so for race run, round 5 of 7 here in the CIL Spring 2022 season. Sean Campbell on provisional pole. As you guys mentioned, he will head to the tail end of this field to start. That'll put Alexander Klink leading the field from WPI. Avery Walker from the University of Virginia rolls off third. Nick Daly from UT Arlington, pay attention to him here tonight. He rolls off fourth. Thomas Crump, the first of our Clemson drivers. Multitude of Clemson drivers are 5, 6, and 8. Hagen Johnson rolls off sixth. Matthew Nordberg splits up a couple of Clemson drivers in seventh. He's from NC State. Kyle Bonin from Clemson will roll off eighth. Justin Roberts from Clemson University starts ninth. And Ryan Whitlock with one of our onboard cameras here tonight. He starts in 10th. Nicholas Patinella from Robert Morris University will start in 11th position, and on his outside is Cohen Evans from IUPUI. The rest of our field, Andrew Williams from Clemson starts in 13th. Evan Puckett from Ball State University in 14th. We'll see his onboard camera here as well. Andrew Burrell from Clemson in 15th. Austin DeLong from Penn College of Technology in 16th. He needs a big points night. He's in a tight midfield battle there. Gavin Keithley 17th, George Nimmer 18th, Kyle Wood 19th, and Jeremy Milnerin rounding out your field. So field heading down towards the start-finish line. It's a very quick pace lap here at Imola, and the pace car whipping on around there. Field will stack up 2 by 2, and we'll get set to go green here in a moment here at Imola. You see the field going to stack on up behind Alexander Klink. He slows the field down, and there we go here at Imola. Klink with a good jump, and look at Nick Daly up on that top side. Josh?
Green flag.
Down into turn one, the driver's heading through a little lead pack of Audi R8s there, diving into the corner. That's going to be WPI in the lead for now. Down in the first turn, everybody trying to get figured out side by side, and a lot of patience so far as we watch the front of the pack from these drivers. You see North Carolina State University right there, a couple of Clemson cars, as you see Alabama at Huntsville back off in that Lamborghini. Looks like Minnesota in the lone Ford, and Gavin Keithley, the gopher, trying to make his move around, and he's got to get that Ford down the road because Sean Campbell and Randolph behind him. Going back up through now, Alexander Klink getting a couple car lengths on this field. As you can see, just under a second, everybody trying to get spread out. And John, we're already single file up front.
Yeah, already single file up front, and that worked out well down into Tamburello. A couple of guys getting it wrong there. I think Ryan Whitlock was off the track, and I also saw Gavin Keithley off the track at turns 5 and 6. So their nights are not starting off on the right foot, but either way, Alexander Klink, similar to what he did 2 weeks ago at Watkins Glen, is already opening up a commanding lead. Nick Daly struggled 2 weeks ago at Watkins Glen to get some top speed in that R8. He had plenty of handling in that car, but arguably a little bit too much and could have done with a little bit less rear wing. And so we'll see if he learned his lesson here tonight. 1.6 seconds off of Klink at the moment as we ride on board with Justin Roberts from Clemson trying to chase down his colleague there, Kyle Bonin, just in front of him in his now pretty well known to us Porsche. That Porsche's been all the way over the course throughout the seasons, and surprised to actually see him down in 7th. He's normally a top 5 guy up to this point, but back to Nick Daly trying to chase down Alexander Klink, but Josh, that's a pretty big gap after only just 1 lap.
That is a pretty big gap, John, and I wonder actually that looks to me like maybe somebody's running a little bit too much downforce. And just not able to get the speed. As you see a little bit of a detour, that would be Hagen Johnson in your Mercedes AMG from Clemson. It looks like North Carolina State will take advantage of this. And Clemson now, starting with that white Mercedes that you see. But yeah, that was a pretty opportune move there for the Wolfpack. And in fact, again, Hagen Johnson. So really, whether it's cold tires, John, or maybe not quite the setup he was looking for, it's a little bit tricky right now for Hagen Johnson from Clemson University.
You know, if you get the braking wrong for that corner, you really have to check out of it, and then you run out of space to adequately slow the car down. But you have to check out of it, otherwise the car gets way too loose and sideways, and you probably end up in the wall. So good job done by Hagen Johnson keeping his car going in a straight line at the minimum, though he probably carried a little bit too much speed in there. You can see these cars diming down there into Ackerman and Raleigh. A lot of rear end action going on in this Mercedes at the moment. Looking pretty loose there on the brakes, partially upset by the curb on the inside there, but just taking a peek outside, seeing if anything's available to get him moved down into the chicane, but nothing available for him. And he actually missed that second chicane and might have been avoiding action for the number 14 car, Justin Roberts, getting it wrong, perhaps over one of the very tricky curbs there. And who's looking in the background there? That's Sean Campbell coming up to meet these guys as we take another look here at what happened with Justin Roberts. So this is a few corners prior to that, getting it turned down into it. And here it goes up over the first curb and kept that steering lock on probably too long, I suspect, going up over the curb. You really need the steering straight for when you land. If you have any angle in it, it tends to throw the car one way or the other. So I think that's what happened to him there. Looks like Race Control has a turn 1 incident for cars number 177 and 97. It classified as a racing incident, so no penalty points there. But back up to Nicholas Daly. He is under fire from the Virginia man, Avery Walker, Josh.
Yeah, and pretty good lines there from Avery, as you can see, and everybody's starting to get their land legs underneath them since we're about a couple laps into this, maybe 3 or so laps, and pretty good drive off for Nick Daly. So maybe what you were saying a little bit, John, is in the corners, Nick Daly looks good, but there is a long front stretch on this Imola racetrack, and that might be the chance where you see Avery Walker in Virginia try and make a move. By the way, right, if you can make the move there, then it's a little bit easier to defend because turn 1 is not really a passing sequence. So it can be done. It can be done, but maybe a little bit of strategy coming from that Virginia machine.
You know, I think a few Formula One fans might want to argue with you over the last F1 race at Imola this last year in turn 1, lap 1, I think, as a matter of fact. But I think generally I would agree with you. It's a little bit tricky to make a pass into turn 1 sometimes. It depends on necessarily the cars you're racing. But with him being 2.5 seconds back from Alexander Klank, he is now out of effectively the draft of the Audi in the lead. So now it's really seeming to be at lap 3 here, going on to lap 4, a race for second place at the moment. Alexander Klank, typically a very clean and consistent driver, not normally very mistake prone, though he has made a couple mistakes in the past, but I think this seems to be one of his tracks. He really seems to like it there, running over half a second faster than everybody behind him so far. That last lap by a 42.2, everybody else a 42.7, and this is this Kyle Wood from Ball State University? Nearly thought that was Sean Campbell with the red and black Porsche, gave me a heart attack there, but no, this is Kyle Wood in the number 99 car down into Ravazza, trying to swing over and do a little bit of blocking on the inside there, but not able to quite get it stopped in time. And then Austin DeLong was like, oh, what are you going to do there? You gave him a little bit of tap, and I'm not sure I'm going to blame Austin DeLong for that one because he was already quite slow, and Austin was clearly checking up there. But either way, he's going to come into the pits. Looked like that car didn't have too much damage on him, but either way, he's choosing to get out of the line of fire. As we're back up to the leaders, Nick Daly has now lost a spot to Avery Walker. Avery probably making that move a little bit earlier on. Looks like Nick got it wrong coming down into the Villeneuve. Yeah, I think that was into Villeneuve. And then into turn 7, the hairpin, that's where Avery finally was able to capitalize on that. But one spot down for UT Arlington, down to 3rd place. Virginia up to 2nd. Thomas Crump sitting quietly back there in 4th, Josh, and just kind of letting these two figure it out between themselves and maybe waiting for an opportunity to open up.
Yeah, that would be, and right now these drivers, as you mentioned, an opportunity would be to get single file, maybe pick the leader of the group and tow everybody along based on what your strategy and preferences are, because as you said, Alexander Klank in a race of his own at this moment. Not even 10 minutes into this race, about 7 minutes, according to your trusty ticker up top, and looking about 3.5 seconds. So if you can think back to some previous seasons with LMP2 cars, in fact, I believe that it was Alexander Klenk in that LMP2 car who started season 1 with a handful of very strong leads in the LMP2 class, winning races by 20 and 30 seconds. And so coming back here, but yeah, no stranger to the front, Alexander Klenk. And as you can see, that that battle of R8s, and then the maybe an R8 by itself, but that Lamborghini has entered the chat, John.
Yeah, I think that Lamborghini has entered the chat. Who else is about to enter? But Sean Campbell has now made his way past Matthew Norberg, not to mention every other car in between them since 5 laps ago, and is now running in the top 5, just 2.9 seconds back from this pack and closing steadily. But Thomas Crump is inching ever closer to the rear wing of that blue Audi just in front of him. And, you know, I was wondering if maybe Nick Daly was holding up this pack a little bit. Then Avery got around him. They're still pretty tight there, and Alexander Klenk is still about half a second a lap faster than him. So, no, this pack's all running about the same pace, save for Sean Campbell, who's closing pretty quickly from behind. Alexander Klenk just knows this track inside and out. Nick Daly getting a little bit wrong there, missed his braking point slightly for the chicane, and is now going to be pretty well under fire. I think he's going to have to go defensive here into Ravazza. Thomas Crump definitely wants to have an opportunity here. I do like this move if he can get it done, but no, he thinks better of it, tucks back inside, and tries to save that for another day. And looks a little bit loose there coming off the curb, in fact, but he's got a great toe off of Nick Daly heading down towards Tamburello, and he might be able to get something done here. Nick Daly does have a little bit of help in front with the draft from Avery Walker, but not quite as much as Thomas Crump. Looks like it's not really closing very much, Josh. I expected a little bit higher closing speed here, but didn't really gain any ground at all.
You know, I saw the same thing on my monitor, John. I think that maybe whatever wing settings these drivers have employed this evening, yeah, not a lot right there. You can see the Lamborghini again looking, and I wonder if Thomas is just setting up and trying to survey the land. He's got plenty of time. He's already up at the front and just trying to see where his best opportunity would be. And, you know, sometimes, John, I peek out just so I can see the apex, just so I can see the corner when I am tucked up, and then get back in line. So Thomas trying to make sure that he's got everything under wraps right now. The leader of the Clemson University team. You see that Clemson Formula SAE on the side. And I think, John, you mentioned it, that we're going to have a little bit of shuffle right here as Randolph and Sean Campbell come through and now try and move their way forward. You can see Clemson again. I believe that is Andrew Burrell. Sorry, that is Kyle Bonin, I stand corrected, trying to chase down Matt Nordberg. And will we get a move into this turn?
Yeah, he's certainly thinking about it. Maybe a half-hearted look there down to the inside, but backs out of it again. Wolfpack maintains that 6th position for the time being. Kyle Bonin not able to close that gap. Meanwhile, Sean Campbell, if I'm looking at my timing tower correct, might be going for a move on Thomas Crump right now on the outside. Indeed, he is down into Ravazza. Thomas defending well down into that corner, and that's not going to hurt him too much. He's still got the help from the Audi in front. Sean a little bit wide out of Ravazza. That's going to cost him a tiny amount of straight line speed down here, but doesn't actually seem to matter too much. Sean, I think, has got some magic going on in that car, because that's a very fast car in the straight line. It doesn't look like he's running much wing at all. He's already got the inside line for Tamburello. I can't help but think with that Porsche braking that he's going to take away this position from Thomas Crump and bump himself up into 4th position down into the first chicane. They're running a little bit wide on the exit, but necessary for the line he chose, entering that corner there on the inside. And now he's got 3 cars separating him and a win here tonight in the first race. Reminder, he started in the last position after a incident. He's really pushing that Porsche there, Jarrett. He's all over the track. Oh, and this is another car into the wall. Kyle Bonin for Clemson into the wall. Maybe you had a little bit of help there. I don't normally see the car at that angle coming over that curb there. So this is between he and Matthew Nordberg. And Nordberg here on the inside. And does he close it down too quickly? He might have gotten I think Nordberg got loose on the curb and then tapped the rear left fender of Kyle Bonin. I'm sure race control is going to be all over that one.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the drivers think and see what race control thinks. Maybe some difference of opinions there. But a couple notes. Yeah, I had seen those two racing, and then now we go down backboard with Sean Campbell again trying to use. And John, I think that he has removed most of the wing from this Porsche. We did hear that the update helped the top end of the Porsche a little bit, and I wasn't able to confirm that until just about right now, being able to see Sean Campbell and Randolph drive by some of these guys on the front stretch, but also understanding that with the update, these drivers have been able to change the wing setting a little more and have some flexibility. As you can see, yeah, Matthew Norberg, race control, saying that Matthew Norberg would have a drive-through. So maybe, John, you are accurate up on the curb, and yeah, just a little bit too close for comfort there. So that is the conclusion. That was Matthew Norberg and Kyle Bonin from Clemson University getting involved. But nonetheless, Thomas Crump back on Nick Daly, and you have to imagine he would love to get around. Everybody loves a good race here, and these drivers have come in contact a couple times already this evening, not even halfway through this one.
Yeah, they've been working at this for about 3 laps here tonight pretty consistently. Thomas Crump really liking to sort of dive out of the draft, just take a peek down into the corner on occasion when he gets close enough. And, you know, there's probably mixed level opinions. I personally like to prefer to try to stick behind the car until the very last moment when there's at least an 80% chance that I'm going to go for the move and then duck out. I think that plays a little bit more mind games with the guy in front. Looks like Nick Daly a little bit slow out of Aqua Minerale, and that's going to give Thomas Crump an advantage going into the chicane here. He's got his nose in front going in. Nick Daly a little bit late on the brakes, tried to really give him a run for his money, but ended up missing that apex on the first half of the chicane, and now drops back into 5th place. And Sean Campbell's already 3.3 seconds up from these guys and working on Avery Walker already. But I don't think this race between Nick and Thomas Crump is quite done yet. Maybe a little bit later on in this race, we might see that position swap around again. But I'm looking for Tamburello for another passing opportunity for this lightning fast Porsche. Definitely in a straight line, and he clearly knows how to take some curbs with it so he can make this track as short as possible. And looks like Avery's not really going to defend this one all that hard. He's going to open up that inside line for Sean, and Sean's just going to say, thank you very much. I'll take that. And now I'm going to try my best to close down that 6.5 second lead that Alexander Klenk and the WPI team have managed to open up 9 laps in this race. That is an immense amount of time that only, you know, in a race that's 25 minutes long. We're well past the halfway point now, Josh, and we'll see if Sean Campbell can close it down. I think it's going to be close, but let's keep an eye on that interval over the next few laps.
The interval will be one to watch. Andrew Williams also one to watch, and Nick Patinella and George Nimmer from Robert Morris and Southern Illinois trying to get together. You see here Andrew Williams in that orange and white Porsche going through, and then this is your battle between Southern Illinois and excuse me, Robert Morris University.
Yep, Robert Morris, though this is an alumni and a student battle at the moment. Nick Patinella being the student in this one, both in the BMWs, however. I got to say, I love George Nimmer's livery. If anybody used to watch Classic Top Gear back in the mid-2010s or so, that is a direct shout-out to their Brick Car 24-hour car. I'll let you read the sponsors logos on the side for yourself there and try to figure out what they were going for there. But either way, yeah, lovely little battle here. Pretty friendly battle so far going on between these two drivers. And this is the closest battle on track at the moment. Just a quick reminder that, as Patinella gets it wrong on that braking zone and has to go a little bit wide there and probably take an off track. Looks like a little bit of damage on the front of that BMW, not from that off track, perhaps from an earlier incident. But either way, yeah, just an earlier reminder, Matthew Norberg currently in the 12th position will inherit the pole position for race 2. The top 12 will invert, so whoever's in 12th will take away that pole position for the second race just to help mix things up a little bit as we ride on board with NC State right here trying to work on Ball State just in front. Evan Puckett driving that number 35 Fanatec Porsche there. And we'll see if he can make it work for him. Matthew Norberg, typically a very, very quick driver and very consistent driver, likes to keep out of trouble pretty well. But he did have that black flag and had to take a drive-through penalty for causing that collision. Maybe a blessing in disguise, guys. I don't know. Jarrett, what do you think? You know, he took that black flag, and maybe he definitely didn't mean to touch Kyle Bonnet. I'm not trying to say that, but blessing in disguise, he may inherit the pole for the next race.
Yeah, and you said it right there. And Matt Nordberg, one of the drivers stuck in that midfield battle in points, positions 10 through 16, only 18 points separating each of those drivers. So you said it, John. You're in 12th. Race is winding down, just under 9 minutes to go. you might kind of just be content hanging out here, maybe even picking up one position more so you're still on that front row. But definitely a little strategy playing in Nordberg's strategy here is he's going to try and sneak around Evan Puckett. Tough place to get it done. We'll see if he does, and he does back out of it. But yeah, you said it, that invert. Maybe you take your medicine, so to speak, in this first race and then go all out in the second race. You've learned what the car is going to be like. We mentioned the iRacing update that came through. So all these GT3 cars have had significant aero and tire updates. So everyone kind of figuring out what it's like here tonight, Josh.
Yeah, everybody figuring out. I think we're finding out that the Porsche is quick, and Alexander Klank and Wooster have found out how to make that Audi R8 quick. John, I have been watching the gap, and just down to 5.4, so don't know if Sean Campbell is going to get up to that WPI machine. But I go back, John, I got a question for you on going into the Aqua Minerale. It's where these drivers go down, drop a lot of elevation off, and are on the brakes hard into the right-hand kink and right. And then, again, where Robert Morris stepped out on the left hand, kind of the sweeper. Are you going into that corner and trusting, as we step aside here on that's Ball State University, that it was just across those turtles, John? We said we don't want to be on top of those, and then it looks like just going there, as you see, making sure to rejoin safely. But yeah, not what you wanted there, alongside and having a pretty good race there with North Carolina State, and just a little bit overdone, I'm afraid.
Yeah, a little bit overdone indeed, as we're looking at a separate situation here with Hagan Johnson just a moment ago, perhaps also in one or close to the same position, just a little bit further up on the track. This is the second time he's missed this chicane here tonight and gotten the braking wrong coming over that first corner there. But trying to remember what your original question there was, but either way, into Aqua Minerale, I don't like that for a passing zone very much. My heart stopped there for a second when I saw Matt Norberg look out from behind Evan Puckett. I was, this is a little bit risky of a move to go for here when you're sitting in provisional pole for what the next race will be. I don't want to have a Porsche that are somewhat oversteer prone and somewhat prone to snapping, as we just saw with Evan Puckett, especially over that bump. I would hate to have a Porsche, T-bone the side of me when we're both trying to enter the corner at the same time there. So I'm glad that Nordberg dived out of that move there and waited for another day. And that opportunity clearly presented itself, not too much further on. But now that bumps George Nimmer in this front BMW here, back to the battle with Nick Patinella. George Nimmer now into 12th, and of course in the pole position for the next race on. And these guys have been pretty much tied at the hip. Nick Patinella making a couple mistakes across the lap. Dare I say, he might have had a pass done already if it weren't for a couple missed braking zones in the last couple of laps. But either way, I think he does have the pace in that BMW to bump himself up into that 12th position, which he knows is absolutely crucial for this next race. Halfway thought about a move there, very close on the rear end. Might have given a tap to George Nimmer, if anything, there as they entered that first chicane, but they all come away cleanly. I don't think race control is going to need to get involved with that one. If anything, Nick Patinella is going to be the one that suffer from that one with a little bit of additional front end damage on that BMW. But either way, he lives to see another day so far, and George Nimmer stretches out a little bit of an advantage going down into the turn 7 hairpin as he tries to chase down Andrew Williams, who's a full 6 seconds up the road. And, Josh, I'm looking now off this battle and back at my timing sheet to see what sort of lap time Sean Campbell's doing versus Alexander Klank. Alexander Klank's last lap, a 42.23. Campbell's last lap, a 41.6 effectively. So about 6 seconds a lap difference between the two of them. And with 5 minutes left in here and a 3.9 second gap right now, I don't see this one changing at the moment. I think Klank might have this one in the bag, Josh.
Yeah, I think Klank in a good position, and I guess we'll get the enjoyment to see those two drivers be inverted and race each other up from 12th and 11th respectively. So we will get our battle, and it'll be amidst a little bit of traffic. But you can see those drivers trying to set up their cars, and we know that they have put together. Actually, we had Sean Campbell was able to provide some setups for all the different models of cars that you see tonight, 8 cars. About a couple hours before this race, and so these drivers, some making their own setups, some sharing setups, and a really cool opportunity for a little bit of knowledge sharing. Speaking of knowledge sharing, Carl Lemkool, Ted Burns, not on track tonight because they are at Sebring in Florida with Kelly Moss Road and Race, and Carl Lemkool joining Ted Burns there. doing some data work on those cars and keeping those cars happy and healthy down in Sebring. So not on track tonight, but you love to see it, John. Able to network and come together and put together that on track action. So back to Sean Campbell. Yeah, down to 3 seconds, John. I probably agree. Very, very consistent and quick, and just not enough laps in this one for Sean Campbell to get up there. I think, barring some unique circumstances.
Yeah, I think I might agree as well. And we'll see what these lap times are as they cross the line this time by. They'll update on your screen as they go past the line there. So Clank at 42.2, pretty consistent there. Sean Campbell a second faster on that lap by 41.272. So he's definitely pushing as hard as he can. Very late on the brakes there, trying to get the car stopped well down to second gear and then use all the power and the torque of that Porsche Flat 6 that he can to get out of the corner. Opens up the steering pretty nicely. Looks like he's got a little bit of a loose setup in that car. We know Campbell likes the looser setups for himself and has openly admitted that makes it harder for some other people to drive, but I tend to like the driving style. I also like Clank's driving style. Gets to turn it into the hairpin very early there, taking a very short radii into that corner, ignoring this sort of Formula One option line. I tend to like that line more at that corner personally, but there's a look at the last 5 laps between these guys. 6/10 the first lap, 4/10 the next lap, 6/10, 8/10, and then 9.5/10 difference between them on each lap. Campbell faster on each of those last 5 laps and has this fastest lap overall, I might add, by nearly a full second over everybody else. Clank's fastest lap, a 42.13. Campbell's fastest lap, 41.34. So significantly faster. And, you know, you mentioned a second ago, Josh, how Campbell's got that wing on the Porsche trimmed out quite a bit here tonight. I'm wondering if these other guys are going to take a look at that and think, he came past pretty quickly on whatever lap he decided to pass me on. Maybe I should take some wing out of my car and make it a little bit more competitive for race 2.
Well, that is the fun part, that these drivers get to manipulate their setups halfway through when they get the break here in just about 2 or 3 laps time. And I do agree that even before, as these drivers talk to you, see your InnoVetted white flag lap there. I think it is going to be Alexander Clank. Going to be pretty hard to knock out 2 seconds this lap, John. But back to it, I think that being able to change those setups, those drivers were talking about the wing, and Sean was pretty vocal about lack thereof. So I think he has shown the science, and I think that these drivers might take another look at the wing settings and ride heights. We have also heard as far as getting drag and grip and downforce all set up on these GT3 cars.
Yeah, for sure. And it looks like we may have missed the man in the flag stand waving the white flag on the last lap by. So this is, in fact, the last lap and last chance for Sean Campbell to do anything here, 1.3 seconds back in this race as they head down into Aqua Minerale. But I think this looks pretty good for Clank right now. I mean, he's kept that Audi pretty tied down all night. I don't think I've seen him really put a wheel wrong. He led from the get-go. He was on pole position. Pretty much a grand slam so far for Alexander Clank, save for technically pole position going to Campbell and then an EOL for the car change. But that number 13 Audi, consistent car in our field every single night. Sean Campbell pushing as hard as he can, getting an off track there on the exit of the chicane. But either way, it looks like Campbell's not going to be able to pull this one in. Gets it to under a second down into Ravazza. Really sent it in there. I admire Sean's determination here to try to get every last ounce of performance out of that Porsche. Inch perfect there on the exit. This is actually a little bit of a drag race to the line. I didn't think it would be quite this close when Jarrett told me it was last lap just a moment ago. But either way, Clank crosses the line first and actually probably lifted a little bit before the line there because that gap close to 0.2 of a second. Before they got to the line there. Avery Walker going to cross the line next to come home third and take away that final podium position. Nick Daly not able to finish the effort going towards Thomas Crump there. So Nick Daly comes home fifth, Thomas Crump in fourth position for Clemson. Great result for him. Cohen Evans, quietly but always very consistent there in sixth position. Ryan Whitlock next to cross the line, our onboard driver for the night, in seventh position. Justin Roberts is going to be the next one after that. Then Hagen Johnson looks pretty consistent there in ninth, and then Matt Norberg in 10th. This means George Nimber, who's probably going to finish here in 12th if he doesn't choose to make a pass here on Andrew Williams in the last couple of corners. Will probably inherit this pole on the next race, I'd suspect, Jarrett.
Yeah, and I was waiting to see if he was going to make this move or if the 23 might break the line. And right
Oh.
there at the line,
That was planned, I suspect, actually. I think Andrew Williams knew that, and he was like, no, I'll take the pole if you're going to go ahead and go past me here. I think that was 100% planned, man.
I think so. And there you see the invert playing a little bit into the games here. So Andrew Williams sacrificing the points for the pole.
I think that's the first time we've seen that, isn't it?
I believe that is the first time that we've seen it at that scale. Maybe the most intentional, but no foul there, as we know that the points, as they do spec now. So I probably, guys, would not give up first place to get second or third, but I could be convinced between 11th and 12th for that difference of 5 points or so to position myself better there. So maybe a good note there for us. But Jarrett, looks like we have the finishing grid up and these drivers already on their warm-up for the next race.
Yeah, so from heat number 1, race number 1 of the night, Alex Clank from WPI, your winner by 1/10 of a second over Sean Campbell. It got down pretty close, so it's going to be interesting to watch that battle here in race number 2. Avery Walker from Virginia 3rd, Thomas Crump from Clemson in 4th. Interesting Clemson driver. We're used to seeing Kyle Bonin up there at the front, so we'll see if he can make his way up toward the front in race number 2. Nick Daly from UT Arlington finishing 5th, 3rd in that alumni. You see those little red dashes next to the position. Those signify alumni drivers, and green indicate student drivers. Cohen Evans from IUPUI finishing 6th, the silent assassin, as John so neatly coined him a few weeks ago, and he continues to prove it. Just a quiet race for Cohen, and finishing 6th, another good finish for the IUPUI team. Ryan Whitlock with our onboard camera finishing 7th. Justin Roberts from Clemson in 8th. Hagen Johnson from Clemson finishing 9th. And Matthew Nordberg, after that penalty, finishing in 10th. George Nimmer from Southern Illinois comes away 11th. Andrew Williams 12th. Nicholas Patinella 13th. Evan Puckett 14th. Austin DeLong 15th. Kyle Bonin 16th. Kyle Wood 17th. Gavin Keithley 18th. And rounding out your order, Andrew Burrell and Jeremy Millerin, your 20 drivers making up this field here at Imola. John?
Yep, 20 drivers finishing up race 1 here into race 2, mid warm-up between the 2 sessions, as these drivers are trying out probably a couple setup changes like we talked about, Evan Puckett being one of those drivers and Nick Daly a little bit further behind him in this warm-up. And that was an interesting first race. Clank obviously dominating that one extremely well, and he's going to have Sean Campbell right next to him, Jarrett. So this is going to be an interesting time for both those drivers, seeing how they make their way through the 10 cars that are going to be starting in front of them. And most of them look to be a little bit slower at this track, unfortunately for them. And it looks like Campbell and Clank are just absolutely zeroed in at this track for whatever reason. It's a very challenging track. We mentioned that before, but either way, it's going to be interesting to see how they make their way through the field. On board here with Evan Puckett from Ball State, working hard on that Fanatec wheel there. I love he's got the podium shifters on there with the magnetic clicking. I love that. Feels so good, so very crisp shifting. Really enhances the feedback from the wheel, in my personal opinion. But yeah, either way, I think that was an interesting race, Josh. It looks like we've got a decent spread of the field, though. I'm hoping for it to be a little bit tighter here in the second race.
Yeah, I think it would be tighter. I think everybody is usually that we see that the first race is a little bit more casual. Guys taking notes, and then we can move on to, I think Jarrett said go for it in the second race. We had a great on board there with Evan Puckett at Ball State, and I thought you were going to say I love the mechanics wear gloves. A pair myself, and I did. That was a nice touch. No karting gloves here. We are all business at Ball State University. But I'll tell you what, John, it feels a little bit like, as we go back on board there, feels a little bit like in between Formula car runs or maybe heat races for those familiar, and you only have time for a little bit of changes. Maybe not even time to test. You got to kind of make a few changes and see how much you trust your car. But I tell you what, John, my favorite change right now would be to unbolt the rear wing of the car from the vehicle, because I think we have seen for the couple guys that really did that, it was very successful to really have a low downforce strategy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. I maybe that rear wing's not necessary at all. Maybe you get rid of the end plates entirely. I don't know, but you definitely at least drop I would say 3 degrees of angle from each of these cars, that unless you're Sean Campbell, in which case you're probably already at 0 degrees or something like that. So we'll see what they come with, but either way, it's going to be interesting. Hagan looks to be really struggling with that Mercedes, getting it stopped down in the corners. We've seen that on at least half a dozen occasions so far tonight, and he did a really great job 2 weeks ago at Watkins Glen, finishing, I believe, on the podium out there. So I was kind of surprised to see him struggling with that car. He looked really in tune with that Watkins Glen, but a very different track tonight. Imola has not too many similarities, I might say, to Watkins Glen. So yeah, we'll see if Hagan can get it figured out in race 2. He's got plenty of time to do that. Well, I say plenty of time. This warm up is over in 5 seconds here. So race 2 quickly on the way. We'll get that starting grid up there in just a moment. But yeah, Clemson, I got to say, guys, I mean, when they first came in here, there were some really solid Clemson drivers. There were some midfield drivers and so on down the field. Now they're all pretty much all top midfield at the minimum drivers. They have continued to excel in this series and have significantly improved over time.
I think that is the right way to say it. Yes, they are all set up. Starting grid up here, and then perhaps some observations for the second race. Jarrett?
So, reminder, the top 12 inverted from race 1 to race number 2 of the night. Equal points for each race, so that does add that little interesting dynamic we're going to see over the course of the night. So Andrew Williams will lead us to the green flag here in race number 2. George Nimmer on his outside will start in second. Matthew Nordberg and Hagan Johnson making up row number 2 here in race number 2. Justin Roberts and Ryan Whitlock back there in row 3. Cohen Evans and Nick Daly will start in 7th and 8th, respectively. Thomas Crump and Avery Walker round out your top 10. Sean Campbell and Alex Clank, the battle to watch, will start in 11th and 12th. Pay attention to how they navigate the field of traffic in front of them. Nicholas Patinella and Evan Puckett starting in 13th and 14th. Austin DeLong needing points here tonight. He starts 15th in race number 2. He needs a good finish here in race number 2. Kyle Bonin on his outside for Clemson in 16th. Kyle Wood and Gavin Keithley make up 17th and 18th. Andrew Burrell and Jeremy Milner round out your field. Josh?
Yeah, moving through. I think that I'm very interested to see how George Nimmer does up front. I see NC State up front, Hagan Johnson up front. I've got some thoughts on that AMG Mercedes that we'll save for later, John. But coming around to it, we see that the pace car is ready to pull off. And again, your control car going to decide when to start these cars.
Yeah, they're bunching up really tight here, waiting for that green flag, and off they go. Andrew Williams getting a great jump over George Nimmer. George Nimmer already under pressure on the outside from Matthew Nordberg. Looks like he's got a little bit of straight line help in that Audi. But for now, Andrew Williams maintaining that lead very nicely down into turn 1, a little bit further back in the field, still too wide. Nick Daly side by side there with Thomas Crump, it looks like, and Cohen Evans on the inside of another Clemson machine, and Avery Walker and Alexander Clank going side by side. Looks like we got a spin. George Nimmer sideways across the track, contact with Matthew Nordberg, and a couple other cars involved as well. That's Gavin Keithley with the flames on the front of his Ford, trying to get sorted out there, but a huge incident coming out of the chicane there. Austin DeLong involved as well. Avery Walker looks like that's going to be, I think, Andrew Williams in the other Porsche. I might have had that one wrong. Andrew Burrell might be more accurate in the Clemson Porsche. But a whole heap of cars involved there. We'll take a look and see what happened here. Was this another incident with Matthew Norberg? That might have been some netcode, guys. I don't know. That looked a little bit suspect.
I think netcode, John, is accurate, and I also had a host of cars involved. I do see Alexander Clank maybe the most noteworthy involved, but netcode, and I don't know how much further Nordberg could have gotten over for that situation. He was in the grass, on the grass, and so I would say there maybe George Nimmer really trying to get his lines right. But I'll tell you what, John, we are going to experience the first full course yellow, and race control has deemed that accident was pretty significant, cars involved, and very spread out. And so we are going to not restart the race, but we will put, just like any yellow flag would, have a full course yellow here on the road side of things and get ready. But as you see a chopper camera right here, yeah, Matthew Nordberg, a good run out of the corner and right on the grass. Yeah, maybe took on a little bit of risk himself in trying to do that. In fact, had nowhere to go and was hit from behind. I'll tell you what, John, I noticed as we went into the first turn, it was not single file. There was a lot more cars that were fanned out, and so I think that follows our strategy that the second race is generally a lot more dicey from start to finish, and so drivers trying to make the most of every opportunity. However, maybe a little bit of ARCA break in that situation. Yeah, you ride on board now with Clank, getting all angles of this one here. Again, look at this traffic jam even before the incident, and then coming up, you see the smoke, really nowhere to go, bouncing off the wall. Poor Clank almost thought perhaps that he had a shot, but that Lamborghini, you think I was a Clemson Lamborghini, bouncing off that tire barrier inside and coming back into the track where those drivers were. And so you're going to see a safety car here, and this is going to give just a couple minutes for these drivers and these teams to repair their cars best they can, get caught up to the field, and then we will go again racing. And John, so I'm gonna go back to Hagen Johnson there. In fact, you can see a couple of Clemson right now. Andrew Williams, Clemson, Hagen Johnson, Clemson, Justin Roberts, Clemson. So trying to lock out that podium after that maybe shuffle. However, I was going to say that Watkins Glen can suit the AMG where there's a little bit more of a flow. There is certainly a flow here at Imola, but part of the reason that I've gotten away from the AMG personally is it is a little bit snappy for me, and it doesn't always like some of the transitions. I'm thinking specifically of Aqua Minerale or maybe Piratella that we have seen here at Imola. So maybe some of the reason that we have seen that AMG where it's hot at some tracks and cold at some others.
Yeah, that might be fair. I suspect, Watkins Glen, like we said, very different track. A lot more high-speed corners at Watkins Glen. I suspect the average minimum speed throughout some of these corners is probably 15 miles an hour higher than it is here at Imola. So I wouldn't be too surprised if the AMG is just far more suited to that sort of track. Look at the state of that Audi that Alexander Clank is driving at the moment. Rear wing all torn up, basically no front end on that car whatsoever. I do hope he gets it into pit lane here. I don't know if the pace car lights are out. I don't think I saw them out yet, so they might do one more time by here. But for all those watching, I believe this is our first safety car on the roadside. It is race control's option if they so think it's necessary to throw out that safety car if there's a massive incident. I think that was an excellent use of the safety car. That was basically the track would be blocked in real life. You would not be able to fit cars through there, and that would take at least 45 minutes to an hour to clean up probably. So I think that was an excellent use of the pace car in iRacing here, as we see a couple guys coming in pit lane. Thomas Crump, Alexander Clank, gonna get their Audis and Lamborghinis repaired and back out on track. Won't lose a lap to anybody else, so that's good news for them. Looks like Matthew Norberg has retired from this race. I feel bad for him, guys. I gotta say, he was at fault for the incident in race 1, though that one was pretty close. And then, unfortunately, I wouldn't necessarily say at fault for this one. There was definitely netcode there, but Josh, you mentioned it's a little bit of a compromise and risky move to go on the inside on that last left-hand corner coming out of Tamburello. It always tightens up there. The front car tends to turn in pretty quickly and not leave you a lot of space there on the inside. So, if I'm Matt Norberg, I'm maybe thinking twice about that one. Again, not at fault for that in my view, but definitely the more risky option rather than just tucking in back behind George Nimmer, who he probably could have found another opportunity to get past a little bit later. So maybe just a little bit too anxious, or anxious isn't the right word. I'm trying to say, just going for the move a little bit too early there in the race either way. But cars getting paired back up on now, and the safety car lights are out. So it's going to be Andrew Williams again, Hagen Johnson on the outside, and then Justin Roberts, those top 3 Clemson drivers, Josh, and we'll see what they have for us.
Well, we will, and you're right. That third corner in the sequence really comes at you fast, and I think if you're the lead car, you really plan, you set that lineup, and you have it in your head. So I think just to surprise your opponent there, as Nordberg did, to be on the inside, and I would argue not alongside. Race control can confirm or deny, but right, I would say Nordberg maybe was not quite there, just had a little bit of netcode. Certainly netcode in that equation did not help, and so the result was, just a tap on the quarter, and then George Nimmer, I think, in the wrong spot on the racetrack at the wrong speed. So probably a learning opportunity. And you're right. The flip side is it's the beginning of the race. Everybody's bunched up, and the leader is only going to get further away. As we saw that Nordberg was really trying to get P2 to get to the leader, and so you'd say, well, this is my chance to get past. That's an accurate statement. Every corner you wait is going to be another tenth or two that you have to make up on track. And so, John, I see both sides of it, and a business decision was made, and the gamble paid out. So um, we will see what comes next, and we are coming to the green flag, and so action forthcoming. But that is my amateur take, I think, on that whole sequence of events, and certainly a little bit complex, I do think.
Yeah, complex for sure. Alexander Klink, though, just exiting the pit lane, is not going to catch the back of the pack, guys. I don't think he's going to make it there. He will have a warmed up car by the time he gets there, and so he might be able to make short work of maybe 3 or 4 cars. But I think the pack may stretch out and make it a little bit more difficult for him from that point forward. But with that instant, that means Sean Campbell starting from 6th position. I'm going to keep my eye on that Porsche and see what he has in store for us. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a couple cars before turn 1 here, but out of the last corner, pace car going to dive down on the inside there, and now it's all up to Andrew Williams. When does he want to go? And he goes now, swinging out a little bit wide, kind of taking a longer line around and allowing Hagen Johnson to tuck in right behind 2 Clemson teammates, so hopefully they play pretty fair here. Going down into Tamburello, Andrew's closing down that inside line there. Does Hagen look again for it? He does not. Allows Andrew to take the preferred line down into the corner. Justin Roberts. Oh, Hagen loose over the curbs again. Josh, how many times have we seen that tonight?
Yeah, I concur. I think that that AMG just not quite set up for this evening. However, that was I was going to say, if I was Clemson, I was going to put these cars 3 abreast for the next 25 minutes and let them sort it out. That would be the best defense, I think, against Randolph. But Hagen Johnson out of the equation. You can see Randolph trying to get a really good drive off, a little bit wide into the corner. As you see Minnesota trying to make a move on Charger Motorsports there. That's Ryan Whitlock. Those two will be side by side, and maybe not a corner I'd want to be side by side into Piratella, but we'll see who will break later. It looks like the Flaming Gophers there going to make it through, and yeah, Whitlock a little bit out wide, and so for this lap, it's going to be the lone Ford GT of Gavin Keithley trying to get inside, and right here just missed those curbs and up past that sweeping left, but tough sequence right there, and it looks like maybe a slowdown, giving up some positions. I think Nick Daly probably trying to give back a slowdown penalty, John, would be my assessment of that situation. But +1 for Sean Campbell and Cohen Evans.
+1 for the both of those. Yeah, I'm going to suspect those at Aquaman or Raleigh. Very easy to pick up. A slow down penalty there for either cutting the corner or going far too wide over it for missing the braking point. So, yeah, definitely a tough one there for Nick Daly. Going to drop down to 9th with that one. But you'll love to see it for Gavin Keithley. We don't see too much of him in the series. He pops in when he can. A bit loose out of Ravazza there for that Ford, but great to see him getting in with those battles in that Ford. Love the flame paint job on the front of that car for Minnesota. It was making him think of warmer weather right now. I sure would be if I was in Minnesota. I spent plenty of time in Minnesota this winter driving in the ice and snow. I'm wondering if that's going to help Gavin Keithley to make a couple of moves again. Great move there from Gavin Keithley coming down into the first corner. They're loose on the exit again. That Ford does not like to get the power down, it seems, but he is fighting hard to maintain that top 7 position for that lone Ford in the field. Now we've got an Audi joining in the mix here, and down into the second chicane, loose again, and going to go off into the gravel. So Gavin trying all he can to extract the maximum performance out of that Ford. It is not playing ball with him tonight, it would seem, giving him a real hard time to try to get that car pointing in the right direction. But that's going to promote Nick Daly up position back into 7th place. And now he's going to start working on Ryan Whitlock. Nick Daly currently the leading alumni in the field. Up to Sean Campbell, who now has 1 car separating him and the first position. Andrew Williams has got probably the toughest job in most of iRacing right now, trying to keep Sean Campbell behind him. I can't, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Andrew. I don't see this one lasting too long. I think Sean will probably have it down into Tamburello, if not a little bit earlier than that even. He's very close underneath the rear wing of that Porsche there. Andrew's looking to defend a little bit there. Sean's going to go out wide, though, take away that inside line into Ravazza and force him out to that outside line, take away the position before they get to the last corner of the lap. A little bit wide off the line there. You know, Andrew might have a shot down here into Tamburello, Josh, but I think we all saw that one coming.
Yeah, as I say, I don't mind that decision there because you would want the draft if you had any hope of coming back, but I don't see it right now. Just no wing. It's visual only on that front leading Porsche right now. I do want to go back and commend Clemson's Andrew Williams, who had a pretty good reaction time as Gavin Keithley exercised his license to kill. Going down into turn one there, you saw that Ford dart out, and Andrew Williams actually, sorry, maybe it was Kyle Bonin in that Porsche who was quick to allow space and allow those three cars to continue. But yeah, we saw it there. In fact, right here, yeah, just maybe just before this moment was where you saw Kyle Bonin in that 26 machine there, that Porsche from Clemson University, as right down into the corner, and Gavin Keithley
Ooh,
eyes out the
yeah.
windshield, but Kyle Bonin, that is Kyle Bonin, in that machine there, just in front of Nick Daly, who allowed all the cars to move successfully through there. So. You always love to see that business decisions made. I mean, maybe the opposite of the Wolfpack tonight. So yeah, it's always there's a big mental component to this, John, as these drivers go through, and it's about halfway through that 25-minute mark right now. So all green flags right now, as you can see that Ryan Whitlock under a little bit of fire from the Audi behind Texas at Arlington.
Yeah, Texas at Arlington trying to work on Alabama at Huntsville at the moment for a top 6 position. Just quickly going back to what you said about Kyle Bonner, we've seen him have some great saves in the past. He has really great car control skills, especially in that Porsche. He loves the Porsche for whatever reason. I also am biased towards it, I must admit, but he's had some incredible saves there. So no doubt he's had plenty of practice trying to avoid spinning cars in front of him. But yeah, on board here with Ryan Whitlock from Alabama at Huntsville, also trying to chase down a car of his own. So a little bit of a 3-car battle here between Nick Daly, Ryan Whitlock, and Evan Puckett. Nick Daly getting pretty close, actually, under the rear wing of Ryan Whitlock. Does he defend down into turn? And he does not. He gives up the position for UTA. Probably could have defended that one a little bit more strongly, and he was closing great distance to Evan Puckett for Ball State just up in front of him. That's going to be one position down for Ryan Whitlock, down to 7th. Nick Daly up to 6th. Evan Puckett still sitting up in 5th, just in front of these guys, and Kyle Bonner is joining the call now. He is in this group here at the back there with that Porsche, and he's going to start to work on Ryan Whitlock here. So he's got a mirrors full of a Clemson Porsche. I don't like the sound of that. That would be a tricky one. Kyle Bonner, excellent overtaker. We've seen it many times. Really great behind the wheel of that Porsche, as we just mentioned, and right underneath the wing of that Lamborghini there, Josh.
Yeah, the Lamborghini that we see, the nice NASA paint scheme from the University of Alabama at Huntsville, no stranger to the front. I tell you who is under fire now is Ball State University, as you said. Maybe a bit wide right
Ooh.
there. This could be an opportunity. Texas at Arlington with a fair run, going to be alongside as they go into this corner and trying to break later in that Porsche. But it looks like it's the Audi. And yeah, I'll tell you what, between the two lines, I think I would choose the line that Texas at Arlington had. It just sets you up better for the exit. And that's the second time this evening, John, that I've seen that pan out that way. And so current running order for this group is going to be Daly, Puckett, Whitlock. In fact, looking at head back to the inside, a couple drivers, maybe semi-defensive, semi-aggressive from Whitlock, who's in the middle of a sandwich right now, John.
Yeah, middle of the sandwich indeed. And going into the chicane up there, you can't turn in if you're on the outside until the guy on the inside turns in. So that's always going to limit you. You have to react to what he does. If you try to turn in when you think he's going to turn in, there's a great chance that you clip him, because he can always wait a little bit longer. Maybe he's waiting a little bit to get off the brake there. So definitely, I agree with you there. Tricky to maintain your position if you're the one defending from the outside entering that particular chicane. But yeah, great little battle here for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Indeed, running single file for the moment, but I'm sure an open opportunity will open up any moment here, as a bit of a commentator's curse almost preemptively, as Evan Puckett gets a little bit wrong into the second chicane. Does this open up an opportunity for Alabama around the outside here? He's got a great run out, but this is of course going to put him on the outside again for the next left-hand corner, in fact. So advantage right now to Evan Puckett on the inside here. Alabama, great apex speed for whatever the apex was for him there, and manages to make his way around the outside. Not too many of those maneuvers we see being done, generally speaking, in the CIL, but either way, great move there by Ryan Whitlock to capitalize on the mistake from Evan Puckett. We'll see if Kyle Bonin can do something similarly here. Evan a little bit slow out of Aquamina Raleigh, but looks to be okay for now, hanging on through the chicane, and Kyle Bonin still has a Porsche to contend with just in front of him. Ryan Whitlock gotta say, guys, that was an excellent move. I didn't see that one coming. I thought he would have backed out of it. I like the commitment from Ryan Whitlock there.
Well, Ryan Whitlock was very committed there, and yeah, I didn't know that everybody would make it through, but they did. Really nice job, and it's nice when you don't have the net code. You can really see these guys with talent and patience, and put their cars where they intend. So I did see the right front of that Ball State machine has a little modification, and so he might have some drag as he goes into this corner, but he is going to choose to defend in such a fashion, and so he'll make it through at least this sequence. But yeah, you can see Kyle Bonin there in the 26 car is probably going to be looking for a way through, because I'll tell you what, he probably doesn't care to have Whitlock get too far down the road either.
Yeah, definitely not. I think that would have been a great opportunity for Kyle Bonnet to try to sell Evan Puckett a bit of a dummy into Tamburello. He gets it a little bit wrong coming out of the second chicane there. But yeah, Evan Puckett was doing a great job defending that, was put his car perfectly on track where he needed to. But I think Kyle could have made him second guess that if he dove one way and then back the other way again. But we'll see if he figures that one out as he continues to work on the back of that Porsche. Meanwhile, like you said, Ryan Whitlock is extending up the road here, 3 seconds up the road now in front of this group here just about, and he himself has 3 seconds clean up to Andrew Williams for Clemson in fifth. So is Kyle Bonin going for a move here into the chicane? He's got that outside line, Josh, we talked about it, not really an opportunity if you're on the outside there, but getting a little bit crossed up coming over that second curb, but still manages to get the power down pretty well on the exit. Nevertheless, coming down towards Rivazza, looking towards that inside, looking towards that outside. Going to have to go outside. Evan is going to force him there. Evan hard on the brakes there, makes Kyle check up just a bit, going into the midsection of that little portion there, and still running remains as it was coming out of that corner, but Kyle Bonin is even closer under the wing. Evan trying to break the draft as much as he can. Kyle trying to stay tucked in there. Evan's doing a little bit of weaving. If I'm raised control, I might be questioning that one a little bit, but that's going to force Kyle to go to the outside here for braking for Tamburello. Does he get it stopped before Evan Puckett does? No. This battle, Josh, is going to continue for at least a few more corners.
A few more corners, and I'll tell you what, Evan Puckett, we saw it at Phillip Island, and we saw it here in that Ball State crew and program. No slouches here as he goes and shows that he's going to take that damaged Porsche, as he's done it. And Kyle Bonin off after a little bit in the tire barrier. Probably no big damage there, but he will have to rejoin at Toza. You can see Hagen Johnson, Clemson actually going by. But I was just going to say that absolutely stellar driving and patience. And I'll say a little bit of aggression, well placed from Ball State University and Evan Puckett, guys. He is there for a reason, and he's no slouch. He wants to be up in these things.
Yeah, hands down, some of the best defense I've seen all night from Evan Puckett there. That was excellent, and if anything, it's very rare that you get the car behind to be the one that the error is forced upon. Normally, if you're the car behind, you're forcing an error on the guy in front of you, but I think that was a role reversal there between those two guys. So yeah, great job by Evan Puckett for Ball State. And now we haven't mentioned his name for probably about 10 minutes here, but it's not all that much of a surprise, is it, at this point, that he's 12 seconds up the road. Sean Campbell in the lead still, a 41.4 last lap by Justin Roberts for Clemson, currently in second position. Cohen Evans, silent assassin, we always call him that, or at least I do, I guess. I'm not all of us do, but I like to call him that. 1.5 seconds down from Justin Roberts, sitting quietly there in third position, has Nick Daly pretty close behind. But here's another look. This is a look on Sean Campbell getting around a probably lapped Clemson car, I would assume.
This was the pass for first, guys.
Oh, okay. Pass for first, and probably not all that long ago. But yeah, great move there down into Rivazza. Textbook move from Campbell, trying to keep a tight line there on the wall as they exit that little section there. Josh, look at the straight line speed on that Porsche. Like, that's just incredible, right? He's got to have no wing on that car.
I think so. So iRacing, with this latest update, gave the ability to go actually negative wing, or what we'll call negative wing, so that these drivers and cars are able to, again, reduce that drag. But you can stall that wing, you can tilt it back. However, I think that I don't know if I'd really. There is still some drag to the wing, so if I'm taking on that drag, John, I do want a little bit of downforce. I'm paying for it. But right, however, he has done that through ride heights and through wings and settings. We know that Sean is the expert master there at these setups, especially for the Porsche. He's done it. And so, to your point, straight line speed in spades, as you see here. Cohen Evans a little bit under fire from Nick Daly. He sees Justin Roberts just a little bit up the road, but he's got a mirror full right now.
Yeah, mirrorful indeed. A bright blue car just behind him with the orange characteristic Maverick logo there on the side there, and the orange wheels as well. Not the Clemson orange, slightly different shade for UTA. But either way, trying to hunt down this Porsche. Got a good little tow coming off of him there. That was George Nimmer coming out of the pits. And Nick is going to look down to the inside, think better of it, get on the brakes nice and early. Not going to risk it. Still got a couple opportunities left. Getting awfully close to that white flag, though, guys. It's about 2.5 minutes to go left in this race. And Josh, you know, I'm back on the topic of Sean Campbell's rear wing, though. Maybe one of the two race engineers in the chat there can let me know. I think IMSA might have a rule that you have to have the wing on the car. A bit of a shame there. I would like to see some wingless race cars again a little bit. But either way, I'm sure even with a rear wing or without, it wouldn't matter too much for Sean Campbell. He's going to find a way to win whatever happens. So this is Ryan Whitlock working on Andrew Williams for a top 5 position if he can manage it. And like I just mentioned a moment ago, Josh, time is winding down here, so limited number of opportunities. I suspect guys are going to start sending it pretty hard here.
I think that is accurate, and so you can see that UTA has made a couple attempts, and I think that if you're Nick Daly, I think you're just waiting for the right opportunity to try and set up that pass, set up that move, and then defend. Right, you don't want to give a lot of time for Cohen Evans to come back and attack. We know that he certainly can do that, and so going to be a mental game from those two drivers as they try and make their way towards the end here with a couple laps. I would say probably coming to 2 to go this time by. We'll keep an eye out for that white flag waving. But I'll tell you what, up the road, it is 16 seconds between the leader and second place. And so these drivers are going to have to get them settled out, and that is confirmed. The InnoVetted white flag lap taking place. So Sean Campbell up the road, but the battle right now is Justin Roberts, Cohen Evans, Nick Daly, and can he do it down into turn 1? Johnny closes the door and hard on the brakes. You can see that Audi R8 shimmy just a little bit, but he's done it, John.
Oh, my heart skipped a beat there. There was a little bit of a touch from Cohen Evans on the the rear left quarter panel of that Audi, but he survived that, managed to get the car stopped in time still for Tamburello. But this lap is not over, guys. Plenty of opportunities yet. Nick has to keep this nice and clean as we ride on board with Cohen Evans down into toe, so the hairpin down into first gear for the Porsche, trying to pile that power on in the exit without getting into too much TC, maximizing that traction potential out of the corner. But that Audi is still maintaining about a half-second gap over the IUPUI machine at the moment, and has earned himself the final podium position for now. Down into Aqua Minerale, still nothing changing yet. Cohen Evans trying to send it in there nice and deep, and a lot of rear brake buys, looks like a lot of rear brake action on that Porsche with that rear brake rotor glowing hot red. But either way, down into the last chicane, effectively, Audi, does he make it cleanly? He does indeed. Cohen Evans also makes it through cleanly. Actually, Nick Daly, not too far off of Justin Roberts here, coming out of Ravazza. This might be Nick Daly's opportunity to claim second position here, and I think he knows it. He's going to try to keep it clean here, and then he's got to nail the exit out of turn 18 here. Can he get it done or not? I don't know. That Audi's actually been really quick here in this second race, but he gets a great exit here. A little bit of a worse exit for Justin Roberts just up in front, but I don't think the draft is going to be enough as Nick Daly briefly blinks out of screen. But he does finish third here tonight. Justin Roberts just in front. Great drive for Justin Roberts. Got to say, guys, great job for him. Finishing second. And, of course, Sean Campbell wins the race here. 15.9 seconds in front of these guys. And then Cohen Evans in fourth. Going to have to settle for that one tonight. Ryan Whitlock, good recovery race up into fifth. And then Andrew Williams in sixth. Evan Puckett with that awesome defense. Seventh. Hagen Johnson crossing the line in eighth. Kyle Bonin crossing the line in 10th, and now Austin Long going to be the next man to cross the line. 30 seconds, unfortunately, behind Kyle Bonin, but you can see just the amount of damage he was involved in that first lap incident. I'd say involved, really had nowhere to go. He is going to finish the last man in the top 10 here tonight, doing a little bit of weaving just to have a little bit of extra fun here in the last couple of seconds of this race.
Yeah, some of these drivers continuing to cross the line on board with Nick Patinella now, who is going to be coming across for Robert Morris University and coming across 12th place. Not a bad showing at all. And you can see behind that's another Clemson Porsche, and I want to say Andrew Burrell, and it is Andrew Burrell for Clemson University. Um, so going forward, you can see that checkered flag. And John, I guess my thoughts are we were pretty entertained. A bit of a surprise start to the second race. We saw our first safety car here this evening.
Yeah,
But
we
I'll tell
did.
you
I
what,
like
Sean.
that. So sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I say Sean Campbell takes the win, but I think the most fun I had was watching Nick Daly and Cohen Evans. And I'll tell you what, I really, really enjoyed watching Evan Puckett bring the heat, and he did. He really bested his opponent this night, at least Kyle Bonin, in that 1v1 duel they had, and showed a lot of composure. Right, you can be fast, but showed a little bit of maturity and showed that he can race when he needs to, and that's the seasoning that we're starting to see from a lot of these drivers, and you love to see it, John.
Yeah, love to see it indeed. Agreed 100% there. Excellent defense there from Evan Puck. I want to see more of that. I also like the safety car. That was the first time we had it, like you said. I think it added a nice little extra dynamic, didn't cost too much time, and I would say would be more representative of what we should actually expect in a more realistic scenario there. But either way, your results up on board. We'll get through the top 10 here real quickly here. And Sean Campbell, of course, winning here tonight for Randolph Community College, 15.9 seconds up the road from Justin Roberts, finishing second for Clemson University. Nick Daly, your lead alumni in the field, technically finishing first in that class, but third overall for UT Arlington. Cohen Evans for IUPUI, going to come home fourth. And then Ryan Whitlock for Alabama at Huntsville in fifth position. Andrew Williams for Clemson University finishes sixth tonight after a very good drive from pole position. And then Evan Puckett from Ball State University, going to finish seventh. Kyle Bonin, another Clemson driver in the field, number 26 car, going to come home eighth place. Austin DeLong, the number 22 car for Penn College of Technology. A good recovery drive after being involved in that first lap pile up in ninth position. And then Hagen Johnson, going to round out your top 10 here for Clemson, the number 7 machine, finishing in 10th position.
It's a really good finish for a couple of guys, but especially Justin Roberts, who joins us now up in the booth. And Justin, a pretty good run and a good battle between you and Nick Daly there at the end. But walk us through the invert and race number 2 and just how much fun it is battling up there at the front.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I really love this format. It's been way more interesting, at least for me, since we changed to this format from the old one. Uh, I think it was more of a race of attrition for me than anything. I really had a couple of guys like Cohen and Nick Daly at the end of there catching up to me. Um, that I was able to hold on. It really just came down to avoiding wrecks for me, and that's how I finished pretty strong there.
So with we talked about it in Discord, but with the new update, what did you learn about these cars, and did it affect the outcome of the race that much? Was the Lamborghini particularly affected or disadvantaged?
As far as I know, I think everybody was disadvantaged pretty equally. Really, the main thing that I learned is these cars are much more sensitive to aerodynamics now. You have to be really careful with body control. You can't run as soft of a setup as you did before. You'll compromise your aero quite a lot. I think a lot of the experience I have on the Formula SE team at Clemson, making setups for that car really helped me to get a setup that works pretty quickly today.
Yeah, speaking of which, you talked about your FSAE experience a little bit there. So how much of that actually do you think translates over to iRacing?
Oh, a huge amount. Everything that I learned for how to make setups in iRacing came from Formula. I've been on the team for a number of years doing a lot of testing, so I had quite a bit of experience there, and really that lays down the foundation for what you need to know in iRacing for setups.
Well, that's fantastic, man. I know Josh and I both like to hear that sort of thing, both being alumni of Formula SAE teams up here in the booth. But, dude, great job here tonight, driving home for a second place finish and a great podium for Clemson. And any shout outs you want to send out before we give you or send you on your way?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my fiance Laura, of course, and the other Clemson guys, mainly Kyle and Thomas Crump, um, do a lot of setup work with them and iRacing in general.
Awesome, man. Well, again, great job. Loved watching you out there tonight, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you guys.
So that was Justin Roberts, the Clemson University driver, coming away second. And it's John, you mentioned a couple times over the broadcast, the Clemson drivers, when they first came in, were kind of that midfield driver. And now I think midfield is kind of underperforming for them. We've seen Clemson drivers in the top three. We've seen a Clemson win. So Clemson really starting to take over the CIL here in the spring 2022 season, John.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've come to expect regularly top 5 finishes from that team, and they have finished well in just about every race, and it's worked to their advantage to have the number of drivers that they do, pretty much a minimum of 4 at any race that we come to here, and that almost ensures that the Clemson University on the team's championship will be guaranteed a very strong finish at the end of the season.
No doubt about that. We are getting word up here in the booth that Sean Campbell will not be joining us for his post-race interview. It's been told he had to rush straight from Victory Lane to do his math homework. So we'll have to have a talk with him at some point about the polynomials and whatnot. But joining us instead is Nick Daly from UT Arlington. And Nick, you had a great run here tonight in both races, really. Walk us through Imola and how it was with your car here tonight.
Yeah, didn't really have too much time to get a setup dialed in, so it was good for the first couple of laps, and then I started really struggling with the balance. But second race, I made a few tweaks, and it felt a little better, but probably still not as great as one of Sean's setups. But did the best I could.
Yeah, it certainly looked really good there in race 2, man. You put on some fantastic overtakes, and we're within a shot, I would say, dare I say, of closing in on Justin Roberts there just at the line. So, what sort of tweaks
Yeah.
did you make from that first race to the second race that enabled you to feel a little bit more in control of that Audi?
Yeah, just softened up the front ARBs and made the dampers a little softer in compression as well, so it could handle the bumps a bit better.
Yeah, Nick, congrats on an awesome run this evening. And so we were looking at a couple things up and down the scoring tower was traffic and good battles. And I'll ask you, you had no shortage of on track action, and I would say mixing it up with a couple different competitors and schools. And so let us know, like, how was that this evening, and how much were you able to trust your competitors? We saw some moves that didn't work. We saw some moves that worked. We saw some, I'll say, some forgiveness and maybe some grace shown on track. So at the end of 2 Imola races, what was your take on the traffic on track?
Yeah, it wasn't intentional. I got to slow down pretty early, like second lap or something, and it cost me a lot of positions. So I dropped way back, and then but it worked out. Had a lot of fun working my way back up through the field, trying to push and trying to make some clean passes.
Yeah, we had fun. We had fun taking notes and watching the show. Who there makes this possible for you, and who do you want to give a shout out to?
Thank you guys for putting the league together and a great broadcast. It's been a lot of fun racing here the last few seasons.
Well, that's awesome. And again, I'm sure we will be seeing that deep blue Texas at Arlington machine up front in the new future. So congrats and enjoy your evening, Nick.
Yep. All right. Thank you guys.
So it's Nick Daly, that UT Arlington machine, and a pretty good looking machine as well to see up at the front there. And Josh, it was a great question you asked. I don't know if we quite got an answer about how the traffic was, but it looked tough. And at Imola, you guys mentioned it over the course of each race, not really passing zone. How many times were cars side by side not really in the passing zones, and it turned into a game of chicken, who's going to brake later? And I think we see that in every movie, that sometimes when both guys don't do it, we see a little contact, and we saw that definitely a couple times here tonight, John.
Yeah, I mean, arguably you could say this track's a little bit famous for the amount of close contact you get and sort of rubbing between the cars, race in, race out, whatever race is going on here, whether it's Formula Renault, Formula One, or some sort of GT car, sports car championship. Tends to be quite a bit of body contact. And I think that really, it's the track's nature, right? It's a fairly narrow track in comparison to like the track we saw 2 weeks ago, Watkins Glen. But it's also got a lot of tricky sections with tricky bumps, very easy to upset the car here. It has to really have a good setup under it. You heard Nick talk about how he really wasn't happy with the way that his Audi performed in race 1. And so he had to make a few tweaks to it for race 2 to soften it up and make it work over those bumps a little bit more effectively. But either way, I think that means that we get better racing at the end of the day. When guys have challenging tracks, some of them find it easier than others. And, either way, though, Josh, you still see guys like Sean Campbell come out here, and it doesn't matter what track they're running. They're still going to be fast at it no matter what. But either way, great racing here tonight, and I enjoyed every second of it, Josh.
Yeah, I certainly did myself. Being able to see some of these drivers come up through the field with a little bit of racecraft and see guys like Gavin Keithley mixing it up from Minnesota and Nick Daly for Arlington. And again, can't say it enough. IUPUI being led by Cohen Evans, the Jaguars always having a strong program and making decisions where it counts. Again, I think probably was not on my bingo card. North Carolina State, Matthew Nordberg getting together with George Nimmer there from Southern Illinois, and probably that was the surprise for me this evening. But John, I have never once been to Imola and been disappointed, and I think tonight was another one that I'll look back at well.
So your final results here from Imola, presented by InnoVetted Labs for race number 2 of round 5. So 2 more weeks of the CIL road, but Sean Campbell, another win. He's going to add to his points lead here tonight. Justin Roberts from Clemson coming away second. Nick Daly from UT Arlington in third. Cohen Evans from IUPUI in fourth. A fourth and a sixth place finish for Cohen Evans. Josh, you said it. It's consistent, quiet, calm. All these things describe Cohen Evans, and we say it every week. And somehow we're still surprised by it. I don't know quite why that continues to occur. But Cohen Evans, another great race. Ryan Whitlock with our onboard camera coming away P5 here tonight for the University of Alabama at Huntsville. Andrew Williams from Clemson University in 6th. Evan Puckett, a good run for him in that Ball State University machine. We saw some excellent driving there at the end to hold on to that 7th position. Kyle Bonin from Clemson University comes away 8th. Austin DeLong needed a good run, and he got a solid one for the Penn College of Technology, finishing 9th. Hagan Johnson from Clemson in 10th. Kyle Wood from Ball State University, good rebound race. He finishes 11th. Nicholas Patnella from Robert Morris University in 12th. Alex Clank could not recover from all that damage. Remember, no fast repair, so that damage he had to roll with the entire night. He finishes 1 lap down in 13th. Gavin Keithley from the Minnesota Twin Cities, after that brave move, finishes 8 laps down back there in 14th. Avery Walker from the University of Virginia in 15th. George Nimmer from Southern Illinois will finish 16th. And rounding out your grid is Andrew Burrell, Thomas Crump, Matthew Nordberg, and Jeremy Milnerin to round out your 20-car field here tonight at Imola. John?
Yeah, bit smaller field here tonight, but, in hindsight, that might have been a good thing at Imola, given the amount of close calls and actual instance we saw here. Of course, that big first lap pileup on race 2, maybe caused by a bit of net code there between the number 676 Matthew Nordberg and George Nimmer. But either way, a great race, and Sean Campbell just continues to prove why he is kind of the best of the best in just about whatever league he races in, and competes in some seriously high standings across the iRacing official series as well as other leagues and special events. So I never get bored of watching Sean Campbell, guys, whatever the situation is. But one other thing I'll mention, though, Alexander Clank, obviously with that first win in the first race, he definitely hasn't lost it here, right? I mean, he's very, very strong, especially in that Audi. And I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing a little bit more battle between him and Nick Daly in future races, especially in 2 weeks here at Spa.
John, I think I got to share that sentiment. I think probably my biggest disappointment was not being able to see, as we saw towards the end of the first race, WPI and Randolph battling their way up through the field. So things that we'll have to stay for next time. But Jared, I think we're going oval racing next Tuesday. And then, John, I am quite excited for Spa, another track that I've never been quite bored at watching.
Yeah, that's right, Josh. In 7 days' time, the CIL heads back to the oval out to the West Coast and we go to Las Vegas down in the desert. That should be a good one. It's going to be a hot track, probably one of our hottest of the year, both on track and the action on track as well. Keep in mind the Oval with the Premier and the Prospect Series. So you have Monday and Tuesday night racing action there. So if you do want to tune into that, make sure to hit follow on whatever social media platform you are watching, and you'll be able to tune in 1 week's time, same place, for the CIL Premier Series at Las Vegas. So for one last time, for myself, Josh, and John up in the booth, and everyone that makes the CIL go round, the drivers, you at home, and the stewards up in the stewarding booth who might have had the toughest job here tonight. We'd like to thank you all for tuning in, and we hope to see you again soon. Good night, everybody.